Hi, I'm Dan Porterfield. I'm here with Kaya Henderson, the founder of Reconstruction, the education program, also board member of the Aspen Institute, of Teach for America, of Robin Hood, and the former and highly successful chancellor of DC Public Schools. Kaya, thank you for being here.
I'm so thrilled to be here, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So we're talking a little bit about a mutual passion we have. How do we engage, include, inspire, empower young people? And you spent your whole life doing that, going all the way back to probably being a youth leader in some way when you were growing up. And what is it that you see in young people that inspires you and makes you want to do more to help them become the great people that they are destined to become?
So I see tremendous opportunity in young people that I feel like we aren't unleashing at maybe one of the most critical times in our country's history. Our country is changing so rapidly, from technological advances to economic implications to demographic changes. And these young people actually have grown up in a very different world than you or I have grown up in. And I think when I think about youth movements, young people always usher us into our next chapter. And somehow or another, we don't trust these young people enough. We aren't reliant upon them because they have different experiences than we do. We aren't giving them the opportunity to lead. And so I think these are young people who envision a world that's much different than what you or I envision, but they don't have many opportunities to practice that leadership. I think they are also, as we talked with Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, these are young people who are in the midst of a mental health crisis. They are lonelier and more disconnected, more anxious than ever before. Social media, gun violence, all of these issues plaguing our young people. And I don't think we've created space to partner with our young people to help make sense and make meaning of what's going on.
Yeah, that's really coherent the way you put that together. On the one hand, we're facing new challenges, and some of them are at a disproportionate intensity facing the young, the mental health crisis. On the other hand, young people have always been a collection of assets
Yes.
and doers and potential and change leaders, and putting it together is where the future lies.
That's right. There's a
Yeah.
missed opportunity if we don't figure this out, if we keep lamenting what's happening with young
Yeah.
people and we don't actually empower and entrust them to lead with us.
Okay, that leads me to a thought.
Okay.
When you were coming out of college at Georgetown University, our shared alma mater, lots of people were lamenting about the state of public education. You signed up with a fledgling organization that was putting recent college graduates right into schools to try to make an immediate difference, Teach for America.
Yes.
Say a little bit about your experience in Teach for America as a young college graduate.
I will tell you, and I will tell anybody this, that I am who I am, in part because of my experience at Teach for America. I would say there are a couple of different dimensions. One, there was a clarion call for young people to fix what was wrong in public education. And many of us responded to that call in the same way that generations before us, through the New Deal programs or the Peace Corps or whatever, young people have always, all young people want to change the world.
Yeah.
And so it was easy to respond to that kind of call. And so I went in sort of optimistic about what we could do to change public education. Let's not even say that 30 something years later, we still are challenged by many of the same issues. But I also had a front row seat to the realities of life in the United States for impoverished people. I grew up maybe 4 miles from where I taught. I taught in the South Bronx, but I grew up in Westchester County, which is one of the wealthiest communities in the country. And I got to see firsthand that my kids and the kids and families that I served were just like me and my peers, except they didn't have exposure, they didn't have access to opportunities, they didn't have great teachers, they didn't have high expectations. Those were all fixable things to me.
Yeah.
And so I developed a sense of possibility around problem solving, even in the wake of, the devastation of poverty. And then I would also say Teach for America gave me leadership experiences that at 22, nobody else would have given me.
Yeah.
Or after my 2 years of teaching, I recruited for a year, and then I became the national director of admissions at Teach for America, responsible for the core operations. I was 25 or 26 years old, running the largest team at Teach for America. because we were in a young startup kind of environment, I got leadership opportunities that have made me who I am today
Okay.
as a leader. And so, I am looking for the opportunity to give young people those kinds of
Yeah.
experiences. I think about David Gergen's book that talks about how those service programs built the leadership of the United States, that people who went through the Peace Corps and who went through the Tennessee Valley Authority, that those are the people who became our congresspeople and our presidents and our senators. And I think that we have to get back to giving young people those kinds of experiences if they are going to lead.
Me too. As a college professor, one of the joys for me was teaching classes that engaged students in real life issues,
Yes.
and then knowing there were opportunity structures that they could tap into
Yes.
to allow them, while as students and then after students, to contribute
Yeah.
and to lead. And Teach for America was that and is that. 65,000 or 70,000 people now have had that experience, and so many have gone on, as you have, to lead in all sorts of innovative ways with that fire to give back and to grow by giving a part of who they are.
Yeah. I think that the full story hasn't been written about Teach for America
Yeah,
and other programs like
yeah,
this. There's a transformative impact on the community that we serve, but there's also a transformative impact on the people who
got it.
serve, and that is worth its weight in gold.
So one of the things that we've worked on is our strategic plan for the Aspen Institute, which identifies three major priorities running through all of our work: building and supporting social trust, connecting and empowering leaders in an interconnected community based on trust. Then a new one, leveraging all of our different individual programs that are strong for younger people, youth, young adults, and young professionals, but bringing it together into a coherent institutional strategy, an emphasis that will define who we are in perpetuity, we hope. And you've helped us think through some of the early ideas. Why do you think it's a good idea for an organization like the Aspen Institute, with all of our connections around the world, our emphasis on leadership and dialogue, why is it good that we extend ourselves in a very intentional way to younger people?
So there are two really compelling reasons to me for Aspen to
Yeah,
do this. The first one is that Aspen is a world leader.
yeah,
People look to the Aspen Institute to understand how to be, how to live, how to govern, how to get along. And if the Aspen Institute puts its finger on the scale around young people, the world is watching, and we can model the way
yeah,
we want the rest of the world to engage our rising generations,
yeah,
as we call it. And I think that is really important. It is no wonder to me that our international affiliates are asking the
yeah,
question, how do we engage our young people? People recognize that young people are where it's at. I was at a session this morning where Mitch Landrieu, when he was trying to figure out whether or not he would run for mayor of New Orleans, asked his father, what should I do? And his father said, where is the future? And he said, I don't know, where is the
yeah,
future? And his father said, ask the young people. They will point you towards the
yeah,
future. And that was so relevant for me, and I think that we will model for the
yeah,
world with this strategic plan and these initiatives how people should be engaging. So I think that's the first thing. The
yeah,
second thing is that I think, we are in a crisis in America and around the world around the viability of institutions.
yeah,
I think about our political institutions and the degradation of trust in
yeah,
them. And part of that, I think, is because those institutions don't represent everybody in
that's right.
America. And we talk a lot about diversity, we talk a lot about racial diversity and gender diversity. But in fact, we need to be talking about age diversity.
Bingo.
And so I think that for the Aspen Institute as an institution to remain relevant, to remain a thought leader, to remain a critical piece of how the world works, we have to engage young people. And any country that has only 75 and 85-year-olds running it is not it's not healthy.
Yeah,
It's not healthy. Somebody said this morning we are applying a 20th century governance model on a 22nd century technological
Yeah.
world. How can we do that? And so if we don't engage young people, I think the very existence of the institute is
Yeah.
imperiled, and we're not going to let that
Yeah.
happen.
So, two questions. First one is, we have across the Institute a number of programs serving youth and young adults now and doing it very well. Without naming them all, the Center for Native American Youth, our Community Solutions program, our Ascend program. We have something called the Future Leaders program in our Energy and Environment program, and more. And all of those programs work with an ethos of co-creation. That's what they do. They work with the young to design what is the problem to be worked on, and then to work on the solutions, but to think
Yes.
about the problems. You've worked with in many contexts. Why is co-creation important to our ability to work well with younger people?
So first of all, it's not just younger people, it
It's anybody.
is
Yeah, here you go.
anybody. What
Yeah,
I've learned in my 30 plus years of
yeah,
leadership is that the people closest to the problem usually have the best solutions.
yeah,
They may not have access or resources or agency or voice to be able to enact those solutions. But when we who have those things are in partnership with those who don't, but have solutions, that's when we get to the best solutions, the most sustainable solutions. The community will protect those things that we
yeah,
put in place. And so when young people are, first of all, young people have many of the answers that we're seeking.
yeah,
We just need to trust them and listen to them and work together with them. And when we do, we're also training them
yeah,
to take the mantle and to run with leadership. And so co creation is important for better solutions. It's also important for training the next
yeah,
generation of leaders. And there's so many, I think, in communal communities where, for a lot of complicated problems to be solved, you need
yeah,
collective action. We don't, we've, you know, we love the rugged individualism of America, pull your own self up by your bootstraps, take care of yourself. That's actually not how big
yeah,
problems get solved.
yeah,
And so if we're trying to solve those problems individually, we're going to fail.
yeah.
And we have an opportunity to do something
Yeah.
different.
I had a really powerful experience, which will lead to my second question, a couple of years ago when I was meeting with a number of young people in our Center for Native American Youth. And as we all know, around the country, there are a lot of reservations and non reservation communities where Native youth are dealing with depression and with uh, just a serious sense of identity under siege or being
Yes.
invisible. And that can lead to, kind of like a very quietness and a feeling of being alone. So our program is about engaging young people in the problems they want to work on. And I met this young man named Trenton, and he was talking about how through the Center for Native American Youth, he learned about some of the different issues that were affecting Native communities, and that he wanted to learn more and try to have a voice. So, and the program encouraged that. And then he said, and this is what was so moving, before I got involved in the Center for Native American Youth, I thought that opting out was a sign of rebellion. Now I understand that opting out is a sign of surrender.
Wow. That's powerful.
Powerful. And so, this idea about creating awakening experiences together, co creating awakening experiences, this is something you've seen happen in other contexts with younger people.
Yes.
And is there any advice for we who are older about how we can open ourselves to providing the encouragement for that kind of growth?
I think that awakenings happening, I mean, you said it, he started to learn about the problems facing other Native Americans. And we talked a little bit yesterday about developing one's own identity, developing community identity so that people see themselves as part of something larger, and then developing societal identity, which creates responsibility, right? So he, one, learned about what other Native Americans were experiencing, and he sees himself situated in that community. And then he also sees a responsibility to do something, which is a societal identity. I think we have to be intentional about creating opportunities to learn. We see it every day at Reconstruction, where when young people learn about Black history and Black culture, it makes them ask different questions. It makes them feel connected to people in new ways. It makes them see themselves differently, and it makes them think, how can I change these things moving forward? So the thing that I love about the Aspen Institute is by deep learning,
Yeah.
we unleash people's passions. We give them pathways to action, and people want to be part of something that is changing society.
Yeah.
And we do
Exactly.
it. We already do it.
Let's keep growing. Exactly. So here's another kind of question. There's roles for adults of all types to be involved in building a society where young people are included and empowered and engaged.
Yes.
And that often involves working with institutions and maybe encouraging or challenging institutions to think in new ways about how they serve the young. And Aspen does convene institutional leaders all the time. As we dream ahead a little bit, do you think there's work we could do to create a kind of a higher level engagement with institutional leaders and young people together to look towards the future?
Absolutely. I think when we think about young people right now, we think a lot about school because
Yeah.
that's where kids are located. That's where young people are located, whether it is K to 12 or colleges and universities. But young people are learning and living all over
Yeah.
the place. And I don't think that we have a clear sense as a country around what we want for our young people, where we want to go. We don't have an agenda.
Yeah.
And so people are just kind of blowing in the wind. And I actually think that by convening institutional leaders, both in school and outside of school, we can come up with a clear, we can co create
Yeah.
between institutional leaders and young people a clear North Star that we can all begin working towards.
Yeah.
In every other job that I've done, you got to have a place where you're trying to get to, and everybody understands what that place is. I think we can help create that for this country as far as young people are concerned.
And yesterday you offered a beautiful vision about what you would hope for young people in our country. What if we close with that?
Well, when I think about what I want for young people, I want our young people to be able to lead themselves, their families, their communities, and our world to make the changes that need to be made.
Yeah. We've got a role to play at the Aspen Institute. Thanks
Absolutely.
to leaders like you, Kaya. Thank you so
you.
much. All right.